America, America, make God thy gold refined till all success be nobleness and ever again divine.
Gotta click it. We're actually going to talk about subject, and I want as many subject matter experts as I can. This is called social emotional learning. Now, a lot of people say, what is social emotional learning? And I'm actually going to give you the dictionary term or the term coming from the internet. So, social emotional learning, per Al Gore's amazing internet here, is broadly speaking, social emotional learning refers to the process through which individuals learn and apply a set of social, emotional, obviously, and related skills, attitudes, behaviors, and values that help direct students. This includes thoughts, feelings, actions in a way that enables them to succeed in school. So, to kind of unpack all that information there, I have two wonderful people here. First, I have the wonderful Dr. Kristen Ball. She's actually a candidate running for the Mason District. She's doing a phenomenal job with her campaign, and we actually going to see her win. And the second person I have over here is Cindy Walsh. She's running in the Sully District for school board also, first time on board over here. We're going to unpack a little bit about this. But before we do that, I want to kind of just talk with them a little bit about their experience doing in education and their experience seeing social emotional learning. So let's start with you, Cindy.
Okay, well, their definition of social emotional learning is what they tell the parents, but that isn't what happens to the kids. They kind of use this double speak when they talk about social emotional learning. They are bringing up every trauma that you've ever had in front of other kids, which invites bullying. It invites depression and anger, because the kid doesn't really have an out. They can opt out, but what does that mean? And if you're bringing up all of these emotional issues, the kids still find out anyway, even if they went somewhere else. So all of these things cause depression for kids. And I have a list of things that.
So before we get in that list, I know both of you guys have worked in the educational field. So what's your experience with this?
Well, I would just say that within the last several years, I have been that I was teaching. I was seeing a lot more emotional issues with students. Students who couldn't take an exam on the day of the exam because they had broken up with a significant other. Unable to cope with emotional issues. A number of students having support animals, things of that nature. So, my question then was, where is this coming from? Why is this all of a sudden becoming an issue with our students?
Those are very good points. And when we started looking at unpacking, considering a person that was in the military and went through a therapy from deploying overseas, you tend to have professionals work with you. And when we started looking at this and asking these questions from educators, which are not designed to do this, is that the best thing we're doing? Such as, I'll give you an example. I talked to a lot of parents that rather not have SROs in schools. And they say, well, SROs aren't trained to deal with kids such as with disabilities. Okay, so we on one end, we agree that SROs aren't training that because me being former law enforcement, you're not training that. But on the other end, you're asking educators ask certain questions that deals more with a therapist And me coming from the field where it was mandated that we did talk about that because it's not good to ball up some stuff. Um, Having educators that are trained in education, now having them identify stuff that a therapist would normally do, it just makes zero sense. You're actually putting somebody in a situation that has no training, direct training on this, but putting them in a situation to quote unquote make a diagnosis off of something. So
This-
what do you say?
This information I got from, I took a class, was called Hidden Curriculum. And these were people who designed and organized what SEL is based on, they use all the theories and so forth in the class, but they also put us through it as adults to show you what a student goes through when they're doing it.
Mhm.
And what the adults would do there is the same as the kids, because they design this to get a rise out of the parents, to talk to the parents. Not They're not thinking about what the kid does, what the kid thinks. And as going through that class, and I can see how a kid would react. So, like for instance, they would ask a question and say, step to the left if you agree, step to the right if you don't agree. Everybody looks at everybody else to see what everybody else, because they don't want to answer this personal question. So they just stand in the middle and wait to see what everyone else does. And because the questions are embarrassing, and the questions are everybody goes, like, you've been through trauma. When you've been through trauma, you might have a day you're not even thinking about it at all, and you have a great day, and then someone brings it up, and then you feel terrible. And they brought it up, and you were having a great day, and now they brought it up, and now you can't think the rest of the day because they brought up all your trauma.
But what we're looking at is, as we look at this in the mental health aspect, because one of the things I'm a big proponent on is mental health.
Yeah.
And usually the mental health, and coming from the medical field, me being also a medic in the military, there's a certain level of privacy act.
Exactly.
And so when we're exposing our kids to this type of stuff in a group atmosphere, asking them these certain questions or private questions, you're actually going against their personal privacy, because now
Yes.
it's all on display.
Yes.
Where and I don't think anywhere in any therapy session you're going to have it, live stream your therapy session. But it just seems like we're actually doing this with actually what you said. If someone does speak up or they do break down because something did trigger them, a question, then it highlights that person, because triggers are very common, especially if you are dealing with some sort of emotional trauma. A trigger will invoke those feelings and it may come out of nowhere. And I wonder, when we start diving into this, is there more damage than good? Not trained professionals doing this kind of stuff. And
Exactly.
B, putting out into the open where a trigger word may have someone break down, and now you're dealing with embarrassment, you're dealing with a whole host of things that if you would just leave it alone, it would never be there.
Right. The kids are comparing who's had the worst trauma to make your trauma, it kind of gaslights your trauma, making yours isn't as good as mine. So you don't really feel like what you feel. And they tell you that your feelings don't matter. And comparing all of they call it white fragility. They have a list. It's the wheel of fragility. They used to call it white fragility. Now they're just calling it fragility because don't have to be white to have all those things. There are things like, are you married? Do you have two parents in the home? Do they go to college? Your things about your weight. Are you a healthy weight? Um, things like that they would, are you gay or straight? They have their own words for straight. They don't call it straight, they call it heteronormativity or cis, and that's actually an insult. So
But
you can't, certain things you can't have. And if you want to be in their group, they're not telling you to be white and straight, they're telling you to be something else, be anything else.
So you mentioned something about personal questions about your family. And those questions obviously shouldn't be asked because there's privacy.
Yes.
Families don't want that.
Yes.
And this is an invasion of parents' rights.
Yes.
Asking children about their home life to try to elicit information
Mhm.
creates a big issue. And then on the flip side, they're going to say, what we're doing is, as we're seeing, we're protecting kids,
They were
but parents.
questions like,
But
what do your parents talk about the dinner table?
what I
And
was saying is,
mm,
they're trying to elicit. You always look at the reason behind it. So
yeah,
they're trying to elicit information to protect kids, quote unquote. Now what do is marginalizing parents and saying the parents are the enemies, vices, you know, the schools staying out of. And
right.
I've heard countless times where, parents of say LGBTQ trans, will abuse their kids. That's an assumption, and that's maybe an assumption based upon some experience there. But what we got to in a society is where we are punishing the masses for individual actions,
Yeah,
which is funny because it goes the exact opposite. Because we don't punish, you know, in law enforcement, what we're seeing today with crime, we're not punishing anybody. We let them do whatever they want. But yet, when it comes to parents, we're pretty much punishing them before they even, before they even did anything. We're already putting guilt upon them and separating the children and say we're going to find the ones that actually are harming kids in some way. It's kind of like that old thing, I think it was uh, someone in the Russians. They said, you know, um, find me a person, I'll find a crime, vice versa. You
exactly.
know,
They use the surveys, they could use the data. It's a what's a company called Panorama. They can manipulate the data and say, this is why your kids aren't learning. This is why your kids not reading. And they'll take whatever group it is, and then the next week the school board is National That Group Day, and then they're not actually correcting the reading and teaching the reading. They're just using it as an excuse of why the kids can't read, and it has nothing to do with race per se. It's just them using the data for
Mhm.
their own purposes as an excuse of why kids don't want to read or can't read because they're of the books they're reading too.
well, a lot of times whenever you have a failure somewhere, and say you got failure in school with the grades and the educational system, instead of addressing the system, you find reasons why that's
Yeah,
outside the school.
yeah,
So now what I'm doing is developing reasons
yeah,
and to put the blame over here versus just taking ownership of the situation
exactly.
and saying, well, what are we doing internally? And we grew up in a society right now which is very bad, which we like to point fingers towards other people, why life is bad, why things are wrong,
Right,
why
right.
society's like this, and we point towards others as opposed to turning around and pointing those fingers towards ourselves and saying, what am I doing that is causing some of these things? And I think this administration, this school board, needs to start pointing fingers inboard and start saying, what are we doing that's causing all these
Yeah, they
issues
don't do that.
by just looking outside? And once we change the school board to where now it's transparent, it's doing self-reflection on what we doing and what our shortcomings, and owning your shortcomings and then working to fix it, these are going to continue, and this election is very important. But I want to segue a little bit into Dr. Ball. Dr. Ball is obviously the smartest person that I know. um, but Dr. Ball, you've worked in universities,
Yeah.
college and universities, and so we've seen a transition where you were working mostly in what grade?
Special needs,
Special needs, but high
elementary
school,
school,
elementary school.
elementary school.
So you've seen the process, K to 12. Obviously, you saw the process that was going, and then you're seeing the end result
Mhm.
that's coming
The-
out. So this is a great transition to what is happening in the school, and now what are you seeing
Mhm.
in the
Their
colleges? You know, by that's a byproduct of this type of
their
indoctrination.
system for special needs works really well for under sixth grade. It does not work middle school and high school, and definitely not elementary school. There's like the higher you get they don't really have a system after that. You kind of have to get them. I come from a special needs background. They wrote a book on breaking the autism code, and it's kind of they sell this as problem, reaction, solution, and their solution stinks. Their solution doesn't fix anything, and when the kids figure that out, that's when they become depressed and suicidal, because they give them a broken system and they tear down their child and they tear down your depression, and then the kids have nowhere to go, and there's nothing they can do.
So what have you been seeing on this level?
Well, it really kind of manifests itself even in just when we would talk about case studies,
Mhm.
looking at something from a purely business communication perspective, and all of a sudden it becomes, here's how I feel about this. So you can see the verbiage of SEL coming into that kind of a discussion where we can't talk about facts, we have to talk about how do I feel about the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's about emotion, and it's not about facts. They don't care about your facts, they care about your feelings. And if you don't agree, then they kind of weaponizing all their terms of racist is, you don't agree with me, you're a racist. It kind of doesn't, racist doesn't have as much meaning, and then they've taken ordinary words and making them about racist. Coffee, picnic is racist now. So
Yeah.
so that the words you were talking about, the triggering
Mhm,
words,
mhm.
can just be an ordinary
anything.
word in your ordinary conversation. I had a coffee today, and they're triggered.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't take very much.
Oh, that reminds me, I did show a clip of Modern Family. It was the pilot episode. We watched it so we could use those scenarios to talk about a particular communication theory. And I had someone write in at the end of the semester in her evaluation that she had been that there were microaggressions in that particular episode.
Yeah,
And
there's
therefore I
another,
was at fault for triggering that.
the microaggressions, that's another one of their buzzwords.
Well, it seems like we've gotten to a situation where we're so trying, and I like to give benefit of the doubt for everything, so much trying to help the kids to a certain point that is actually harming. But there's also a level of nefarious things that they're doing, which is, being able to weaponize this to a point where it's separating kids from the families. And I think that is the bigger picture that we have to look at right there. There's the
That's
part
on
of
purpose.
a little bit more sensitive than they should be, where everything has pretty much now is everyone gets offended with everything. And you're seeing that in culture now. You're seeing a trend going this way, where just the mere presence of, say, you being a conservative triggers that person to automatically dislike you. And I'll give you a prime example, and you're actually there with me, where an individual was want to talk with me, and he asked me, if I was MAGA, and I said I'm a conservative. And right there, he started going down this track of racism, and it just seems like we've created a society that's ultra sensitive to every little thing, that now we have people walking on eggshells
The-
to a point to where
that
it literally becomes more narcissistic, because somebody could use that to try to catch you on something and then try to demean you to make themselves feel better.
just add to that the word hate. So they're taught to hate. If they think that, Kristen, that if you hate me, right? So then I can say whatever I want to you. So you just, like, you make me hate you so much that I just start walking up to you for no apparent reason and punch you because I was told that you hate me. So it starts a fight out of nowhere, and you don't know me from beans. And you just like, why did that person come and punch me? So the hate just starts a fight out of nowhere. and the hate is weaponized. And or what is a MAGA? What is that? What is, that's someone who hates me, so I can come up and punch them. And that person doesn't know anything about you.
And if I call you a racist, then I don't have to listen to what you have to say. Like I can just
Mhm.
brush everything that you say to me, whether it sounds reasonable or not, under the rug because
The-
I've labeled
Well,
word-
I will tell you this.
right.
After that conversation, and after I removed myself from the conversation because I said you're really insinuating that I'm a racist, and this was based off of just a conversation on the length of time that slavery was within the United States, and he kept going back to where 1619
Mhm.
project, and I said, well, the United States wasn't born until 1776. So if there's issues for the 1619 project with racism and slavery, that is a European thing. That ideas and everything was imported, and he couldn't really understand that because he wants to everyone's been told so much hypersensitive that the United States and everything is the most racist. And I try to tell people, if you take this amount of time the United States was on this great earth, the amount of years, the amount of centuries, we are very young compared to the British Empire, French Empire, Spain, everyone. We are young.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
There's not even comparison. So if you took the length of time when we were actually born a country to when we abolished slavery, it's a shorter period of time than, say, the Brits when they started slavery and then when they first got rid of it. Yes, on the timeline of years, they stopped it before us.
Mhm.
But if you take the full spectrum of years of when it first was incepted to when they stopped it,
Mhm.
leaps and bounds, it goes beyond with the United States in that time frame. And having a conversation like this, he just wasn't understanding because they were so focused on the racism portion that couldn't logically look at things
Yeah.
and say and agree with me. It's a simple fact. Is if I did the math right now and did the centuries out,
Mhm.
it'll be easy. Another country, Spain, England, whatever, that imported a lot of slavery over will be here. The United States will be here. That you can't go away from the facts, but yet so much words from social emotional learning. How do you feel about this? Oh, slavery was bad. How do you feel about this? And really got tying into taking simple facts and pushing into emotion. You should feel anger, hurt, pain, and everything from it.
It's even
Clouds the mind to where
worse
they
than
can't
that.
even think beyond that because now emotions are taking over versus facts.
It's even worse is it's pitting the kids against each other. So you're an oppressor or you're oppressed.
Well,
And then they're asking all the religion and all all of the different races is to find out, are you from European descent? What
But-
are you other than white?
but I wouldn't say it's worse than that. I would say having it start in school
It's bullying
creates
is what I was trying to
but
say.
what
Yeah.
it does is having it start in school creates whatever's after effect in their 20s, 30s, and everything. Because you got to consider this, kids that are building a foundation, and are they going to build a foundation on love? Are they building a foundation on hope? Are they building a foundation on, unity? Are they building a foundation on, say, God and good, solid values, whether it's Christian values, Muslim values, Buddhist values? Are they building a foundation on those values, or are they building a foundation on this?
Mhm.
And right now, what we're seeing is it's a foundation built on social emotional learning, dealing with slavery, separation, creation of division between people. And so that foundation is now what you're building a house upon. So how can you fault the pillars, the windows, and everything if it's complete like that when the foundation? So how can we solve this? Because now, we could sit here and scream and say, listen, this is bad and whatever, this is what they're doing. We could solve it by changing this out of school system. But how long has it been going on, and how many people are already having these feelings, having these things? I could tell you one thing
So now they're in college.
is
So
while this person wasn't in college, This person was way out of college.
Yeah.
But how do you solve that? And I think, you were there, and how I went through it was not in an aggressive manner. Listen. And when he was talking over me, I said, listen, we're having a discussion. I have to talk. And as I talked and told my piece, and then he tried to counter, and it started going into more racism and everything. I excused myself. I said, well, here's my son, and he is African American Caucasian, and here's one of my best friends, and she's African American. Because that assumption based upon the foundation that was created that all conservatives are racist,
Mhm.
because that was brought in through social emotional learning.
Right.
And so how do you solve that is exactly, with a kind heart, and remove myself. I didn't fight with him. I just removed
Yeah.
myself, gave him time to reflect on what happened. And then from that reflection actually came up and said and apologized.
Mhm.
So I think that's what we need to do. Now, is it hard? Yes, because I was
You
being
have
yelled
to
at, everything,
undo all of that
but
soul system.
but you can't undo it through the words of anger. You can't
Right.
undo it. So when we look at this,
You have people so angry
but
at you and they never even met you.
but what you got to do is look at this and how do we solve this issue? There's 2 points to this. You solve the issue from the school. Stop doing this. Stop creating this foundation that's based upon, separation, division, and everything, right? That's one portion. And that's probably be the easy portion because we could stop it by, taking over these schools and making a change. But how many is already out? How do you stop the other side? Because remember, the foundation is created in them. So if it's not being taught in schools, they're going to go ahead and teach that to their kids. And now you're looking at a generational thing
Yeah.
that you're going to have to solve. So it takes us as conservatives to be able to stand there, not just turn around and say, I'm not talking with them. That we have to be, and I like to say, the light of God, to go there, let them yell at you, let them do these things and talk calmly to them, and rationing with them and show them a different light.
They've made them into activists
Mhm.
so that when they graduate, they're going to go out and protest something.
No,
Take
but
something.
what I'm saying is we have to
And
we just can't point and say they're activists or anything. We have to break
they
this.
don't have to be activists. They don't.
No, but that's what
Yeah.
it takes. It takes us being able to not discard them and say,
Mhm.
I'm not listening to them. They are completely out of mind. But it takes us to go to them in the face of hate, to listen to that, because they want to be heard, and give them a chance to be heard because it shows a level of respect, even though what they're saying is very hateful towards you. Um, and you witness firsthand, he was very aggressive and hate, but to be able to take that and then she'll still show respect towards the person. Now it's hard because I've done it, and
There's
I've done it today with another person that kind of hated me at the polls for no reason. Dan, if you're listening, still love you, buddy.
Mm.
Still love you. And that's his name, Dan. But it takes us to have to do that as a Christian because, and conservatives, because what's alternative? We fix this right here.
there's some people that just need to vent. You don't have anybody to talk to anymore. So uh, talking less talking, more listening, and just let them whatever they want to say, just let them say it, and they feel better because they don't have anybody in their family to talk to. Kind of, you don't want to do that route. You don't want to go and yell at people, and you don't want to be conservative either. You're just kind of in the middle, and so like, what do I do now? So
Mhm.
let them talk,
Mhm.
and they're just like, thank you for listening, and I didn't really do
Well,
anything. I just wanted to
here's
listen.
an awesome thing that we have here. We actually have a doctor with communication skills right there. There's his PhD in communication. Somebody does. I don't know. Maybe her right here. So, Dr. Ball, you are a expert in communication. I'm still learning how to communicate. It takes a hard time when you put two words together, so I'm still learning. But you being an expert in communication, what tidbits do you have out there to be able to communicate? I know, we all hear active listening and different things like that. And remember, this is not a therapy session, but what we're doing is trying to give you skills to identify what's going on. And if you guys know me, I don't like just telling you what's happening. I want to give solutions to it. And just dealing with this in the school, and we're going to get elected on the school board. Yes, we will solve that. We'll pull this away from school, but there's already so much damage that's been done.
Some
How do we accomplish this and reunite this community? So that's everyone knows that talks to me. I'm not about pointing, fingers. I'm not about telling you the worst case, what's bad out there, and tell you this doomsday. I like to come in and tell you, okay, this is what we have, and this is how we can solve some of these things. So give us a rundown. I know I put you on the spot, but you being, doctor, tell us, what can we do as people to be able to communicate better?
Well, I would just, you mentioned active listening, and one of the things that that I talk about with students, and also do lectures on, is talking about creating a supportive climate instead of a defensive climate.
Mhm.
And so someone can come at you defensively, and you need to try to find a way to take what they're saying and make it into a statement that diffuses the situation
Mhm.
and makes it more supportive, so that they feel as though they can talk, kind of like what you're saying, Cindy, right? It's like you want to make sure that they feel as though they're being heard and you're listening to them,
you can
but you're also trying to not make it as defensive.
repeat back what they just
Mhm.
said to
Mhm.
make sure they know that you heard them.
Mhm.
And I also would kind of redirect that to yourself, because they're trying to teach you you can't hate, but you can hate yourself. And part of the bullying isn't to go and punch someone, it's to come up to the teacher and say you were punched even though you weren't. And it's a kind of a fake victim kind of an idea. And hating your body is another one
Mhm.
that every adolescent, everyone in high
Yes.
school hates the way they look and spends the rest of their life wishing they look like that.
Exactly.
And you can't be too masculine, too feminine, too tall, too short, too this, too that, whatever it is. You don't like the way you look, and they're out is, here's a new identity, you can be someone else. And what would you say for the kind of self-loathing and the hate that people have for themselves versus what you're saying to someone else?
Mhm.
Well, I will say this, when we start looking at um, people trying to escape what they are, such as, I don't like how I look, I don't like how I speak, I don't like how I talk, I,
All of
I
that.
don't understand,
Yeah.
I have issues with my sexuality, and having an escape for things is something that we're not trained in the military. In the military, you identify areas, and it's accepted. This is me, this is who I am, and then I build upon that to make myself an even better version of myself. Um, and also, myself being of Christian faith, you know, I look at, things that you go through within yourself, you know, how you're made is a masterpiece in itself. And you should never feel judged at all. The only judgment that ever comes is from God and God Himself. And God's never going to judge you off anything. So these are things that needs to be put in our children, saying that as you are perfect. And
That's how you fix it
you're
right there, to
but
build
that's
them up.
but that's dealing with
That's a good message.
but that's dealing with the children, the kids, and everything. But we do have a huge segment of the nation, the population, that's already been created as foundation. And so we talked about communication, active listening, and a lot of it also comes with body posturing. You know, how you present yourself to be able to what's the right word we use it, diffuse situation, you know, to calm a person down. So what tips do you have on that end? You know, a person comes at you very angry, very mad, beaming with anger based upon not of you, something else. I mean, I personally would say, listen, first and foremost, know that this isn't about you. This is about something that they went through. So what else? Body postures and everything is very important because
Yeah.
there's a whole nother unspoken language being done by your body positions, how you stand, how you engage, you know, your voice tones and everything. You know, I can say I hate you in a very calm way, but you're like, okay, well, you just said hate. And then I can raise, I can make a more assertive motion towards you, which elicits a certain feeling in you, which probably will get you either defensive or really mad, which now escalates the situation up. So what do we need to be cognizant of our body position, our body language out there?
I would say first and foremost, it's hard to keep your cool when someone comes at you. So I know that most people's reaction would be somewhat defensive initially, but you know, eye contact,
Mhm.
looking at, orienting your body towards them, not crossing your arms, but trying to maintain
that's
some kind of
defensive.
some type of an
Openness.
open body posture.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, those are probably the best things. And nodding every once in a while, not a nod of yes, I agree, but a nod of I'm still listening to you.
Yeah.
So the self-hate again, instead of saying, I hate you, say you're ugly. And then the kid goes, yeah, I am. Then they agree. And then there's just more and more self-hate.
Hmm.
And they try to address those kind of things in social emotional learning, but they're not really fixing it. It's just kid who feels I'm ugly, and then someone calls them ugly and then they're really looking and goes, "Why am I ugly?" No, like it's more and more self-loathing. And instead of saying, um, "I'm going to kill you," they'll say, "You're breathing too much oxygen." They,
Hmm.
they using all of the checklists on politics and then using it against you and more self-hate, more and more that instead of fighting back, oh, yeah, I am ugly. Yeah, I am short. Yeah, I am this. And instead of fighting back, they don't know what to say. So they don't say anything.
And I think too, we have to address the fact that social media has proliferated these
Yeah.
issues because, I didn't, the bullies that I had weren't out there tweeting about me or putting something on Facebook because it didn't exist, and kids have that compounded issue
They will
in
look
the
through
situation.
everything you've ever posted anywhere to find something that you said and use it against you.
No, I agree. Social media has
Yeah.
exacerbated a lot of these things, and what people now can put on social media to attack without having discussions face to face or knowing the person is completely unheard of from the past and what we went through.
Yeah.
And so we talked about two things. We talked about active listening, talked about body language and everything. So we're in a conversation and you're dealing with somebody that's obviously very heated and everything. you know what is the best method of you do the active listening, you're listening, body position, you're open and everything. When is a good time to continue engaging or disengaging? Are there times where it's just not going there? Is there key things that you're keen in on that maybe I should keep this conversation going? And also, we're also should be looking at their body position and everything. Tell me a body position or the way the person starts once you start talking that they're disarming themselves now. Do you get us? How can you identify those things for somebody that's out there to engage somebody to know that okay, this person is now calming down, what is the typical body language going from aggressive and now back down to non-aggressive?
Well, one thing that I would say is this concept of mirroring.
Mhm.
So if you notice that the other person has started to relax or is no longer standing with their arms or pointing at you, if their body language is relaxed and they're
Mhm.
mirroring you, then you have some clue that they're okay.
Okay.
But yeah, you can get to a point where, just like last night, you
Mhm.
realized that it wasn't going anywhere, so you excused yourself. Give yourself time to think, give him time to think, so that you can come back and re-engage in the conversation.
And it was an amazing thing that happened. After a while, and he talked and did his thing, and he came up to me and apologized.
Mhm.
And so that was, what next steps are you going to take? And so, me coming from a Christian heart and understanding that people have different worldviews based upon their path. And I always say this to a lot of people, our paths are our own personal journeys. And I may not agree with you, but I have to understand that you have a certain path that you took to get you to this point, a path that I never took.
Mhm.
And this path shaped your worldview, such as my path shaped my worldview. And so, talking with him and saying, hey, listen, I understand you have a different path than I do. You've experienced things that I haven't experienced, who's created your worldview. We're both minorities here. I came through a different path and I've seen different things. I had different experience. Military it really shaped my path
Mhm.
on the love of my country and everything. He wasn't military. So he and was, college, straight college.
Mhm.
So his path was different from mine because of world experiences. And we got to understand that, keep that in mind. But I think what happened was when I was able to justify his feelings based upon his path,
Mhm.
had him able to see me as a conservative in a different light. And I think even though I went through all that, at the end of the day, I think he went away saying, okay, wait a minute. Maybe conservatives are not that bad.
Exactly.
And I tried today with Dan, and it kind of worked because when I left, I said, bye, Dan. He moved his hand and everything.
The
He was very angry.
personal space
Mhm.
of, if you take a step forward, and you're just too close, take a step back, that there's some
Mhm.
amount of space that people are comfortable talking to each
Mhm.
other, and the you recognize that if they're taking a step, you're taking a step forward and they're taking a step back, you're too close.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm. Yeah.
take.
Yeah, and this being a political atmosphere right now, and everything's political, our feelings are running high. But I actually want to dive into a little bit of the political nature of all this. And if y'all didn't know, I think I told you guys before that I've read Rules for Radical
Mhm.
by Sal Alinsky,
Yeah, I read it.
and it's pretty much a playbook to, I would hate to say it, to win elections. And how do you do it? Um, People vote more on emotions than they vote on logic. Low information
Yes.
voters vote on emotions. What
Mhm.
triggers them? And this is a book that tells you exactly, find something emotional that drives somebody, right? Find that emotional thing. Then go to the other side and demonize them. Doesn't matter if it's completely true. You just say there, that's the person. You're feeling this way. That's the person, or those are the people that are making you. Those are the ones that are wronging you. And then come in as the savior and say, I will take care of all this. I will fix all your issues. I will fight for you against them.
Mhm.
And that rallies the base because most people do things based off emotion. We were seeing that with what they're doing
And
in
that's all
SELs.
emotion. SELs,
It's
all emotion.
developing a foundation of emotions to be able to now trigger that emotion at any given time by pointing. So one thing that I've learned to do was you understand what's happening and then use that emotion, understand that this is
Mhm.
what it is, emotion base. How can I use that for for the opposite way. They want to use it to divide, segregate, and push people against. How can we use it? And I can tell you that a lot of
Trigger each other.
things that I found during this campaign, talking with tons of Democrats and moderate Democrats, even far left Democrats, is to really understand, listen to them, one, but understand, what is the emotional thing that's happening here. And I can tell you resounding that parent rights, whether you're a libertarian, independent, conservative, Democrat, uh, parent rights, family tradition crosses over.
And it
It
crosses
crosses
every
over.
religion, everything.
And
Yeah.
so when now you tap in the same way and say, listen, your rights, your everything is getting insulted on, and I want to respect that. And now I want to help you out. It's been very positive, because if you could, on emotional level, get to the same and now create that bond emotionally, and now they're not thinking conservative, Democratic, or just conservative, progressive. They're thinking we have a bond here. We both understand each other. It takes that other level to where I'm willing to talk with you, figure out where your feelings are, and you know
Part
work together and make that common between us.
part of the triggering on how that works is not telling the parent until you've reached a huge escalation, when it could have been a little problem, could have been solved in a day, but because they didn't tell the parents, now it's a big problem because they didn't take care of it when it was a little problem, and then parents didn't know about it. And they say it's all the parents' fault for not knowing about it when they didn't even tell the parents in the first place. The parents need to know if your kid is having some emotional problems. Parents need to know, and parents
Mhm.
probably know how to fix it too, but if they would even bother asking.
No, that's completely true. So we are wrapping this up, but we got some questions there. Usually Mary has that, and she starts reading out the questions. Let's see if we have my sons over there running the keyboards and everything. What questions do we have? None. I know we have questions because I have. Oh, I gotta turn that off. I know we have questions because I have. Oh, I gotta turn that off. That's terrible. Okay, want to ask those questions, buddy? Sorry about that. Like I said, I always tell people I'm not a politician, and I am definitely not a technical person either. So, what we got there, buddy? Questions?
Questions for all.
Okay, you guys speak up.
Questions for all participants about the constant survey that CPS is running to extract information from our students. Would you limit the number of surveys taken among our students?
I don't even want the surveys to begin with.
Yeah.
Like I said, they manipulate you. Who in the class will you talk to besides your mom? Who else could you? Because then if you don't want to share it with your whole class, then they can ask that person instead, and they ask a whole lot of sexual questions that if a normal person wouldn't even know what they were talking about.
I would say this. So there's limited time in the day. The kids are there for a limited amount of time. If we're taking the
Okay.
time, the precious time away to ask these surveys, how much time is being left for actual education? The goal of a school is to educate, not to deal with the social aspect of things. And so we need to get back to basics. So it would be resounding, I think, from all of us, no more surveys. And when we get on a school board, there'll be no more surveys. If you're a parent and would love to do a survey, I know a lot of counselors and therapists that I can refer you to, and you could take as many surveys you like. But it does not belong in school.
The social emotional learning, by the way, it's not like it's a class or something that you can get out of. It's just interwoven into the
Yeah.
class. So how much of your time in algebra is talking about your divorce or your parents' divorce or something? Like, how are you going to learn your subject if this is all you're
Yeah.
talking about? And how much time? That would be a good question. You want to ask a survey, how much time are you spending asking about that?
Well,
And how much time are you really teaching them?
well,
what
we
they're
just don't
supposed to
need we don't
learn?
need surveys there. We don't need them. we could take them to a counselor so they could do that.
I give
Next
you
question.
a real example
So
too.
it's a long one. Thomas Jefferson High School Science
Mhm.
and Technology School embraces the challenge success ideology from the West Coast. As a result, the former #1 school, high school in the nation is falling down the ranking. What are your opinions about the challenges?
Well, I could tell you this, it's exactly what's happening. Two things are what I'm seeing with TJ. One, it goes you take away from the merit base, and we should be building kids up and having them achieve and making this special for them, right? And so when you take away that because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, then you're going to get an end product where you're seeing a decline over there. Then add in if they're doing that just for the sheer acceptance into the school, that means they're actually teaching more social emotional learning within the school, which also plays into taking away from the actual time to instruct on science and technology and math.
Mhm.
And so it's a ripple effect that happens, and it starts with putting the taking away the merit base. And I'm not saying that kids can't reach that level, but there should be a process, and I think there's more damage because once you start doing that, now you're seeing test grades go down. What you have to do is now either lower the testing standards to make them feel that they're achieving, and when in reality
If the
you're
kid
smoking mirrors.
knows the test is easier, then he doesn't feel like he deserved it. And if you take 3 kids, one really studied, one didn't study at all, and one maybe studied a little bit, the and then they average out the grade, the kid be like, why should I bother studying if you're going to give everybody a C, and a kid who failed, like, I get a C and I don't do anything, right? So um, the kids don't feel like their tests mean anything or they're worth it. And then also the what you said, to get into the
Mhm.
school in the first place based on merit, and not say that based on your race that you can't get in, and not say you're not smart, you can get in, anybody can get in based on merit, because we believe in the kids and we believe that they can do it, and not just say, oh, well, you can't do it
Well,
and you can't
I
take the
saw
class you
this.
want,
I saw this in California. You probably, uh, you know,
trying
Dr.
to make
Ball,
us
you could
California,
probably
right?
attest to this. When I started going to college and re-entered college when I was in the military. Military has a very strict standard of grading. It's a point
Right.
system. Each one's a point.
Right.
Went to college, I used the same mentality of studying everything, and they had this thing in one of my classes, which was called a curve.
Yep.
And I blew the curve out, and everyone got mad at me.
Mhm.
And I was like, "So you want me to score less,
Mhm.
so you could
Yep.
pass?" And it just didn't sit well with me. But those are the techniques that's being used. Now let's put this on a curve, and the highest score sets the standard of A all the way through. But what if that high score is a 70?
Mhm. Right.
Now,
Almost be embarrassed for
yeah.
getting that high score,
So,
and
but that's
because they're all mad at you.
yeah, but that's exactly what's happening. It's able to manipulate the scores to make it seem like you're graduated, but in reality, if you just do a whole weighted thing
Mhm.
on each question was worth a certain amount of points to 100,
Right.
you're actually
Well,
an
when
A is
they're
actually a C.
when they're grading for equity,
Mhm.
they're not imposing deadlines. So
Yeah.
students can turn stuff in when they want, turn it in late. Oh, and if you didn't do well, you can do it all over again.
Yeah.
Take another
And then
test.
that's another thing that is burdening teachers, having to
Hmm.
continuously regrade
Yeah.
materials that they've
Definitely.
already covered months
Definitely.
ago.
So what else we got there, Young? 2 questions. I see 7 right here.
Hmm?
I see more questions here. That's fine.
One thing that I think is important to note about SEL is that it's not something that's just impacting Fairfax County. It is at the state level right now.
I'm messing up again. I'm trying to see these questions. Sorry, everybody. Oh, it's comments. What comments do we have?
No, I'm not reading these comments.
What is it?
I'm ending this.
Terrible comments?
There.
Let's hear the comments. I love to hear the comments. Go ahead. let's hear the comments.
Enough. Always surrounded by different women at events, but his hands were on them. Clearly has ill intentions. I have been a big bystander for years at these events as a Democratic voter, and it's obnoxious people take this man seriously. Let's start this.
Okay, and who passed that question? Who said that?
Oh, it's a big.
Okay, well, I don't think I actually put my hands on anybody here, but that was fantastic. Next one. So this is a prime example. So read these questions because this is examples of, well, read these statements because this is example of what I deal with, which they can't attack me on anything, but they make up stuff. Go ahead. What's the next one? What, any other statements?
No, that was
You want something positive.
Okay. Anyways, hey, listen, you know, when we start looking at this, and I'm going to address this to a big account that is going to be saying these things, and I kind of laugh at that. You know, yeah, just laughing. It's just funny as heck. But no, but that's completely fine. You know, when we start looking at these things, and you know, we start looking at the arguments of people on the progressive hard side. You know, they all of us, they've come in and taken shots to try to get underneath your skin, and it just doesn't work. I mean, I just had to laugh at this. You know, these are going to be my colleagues on the school board. Not to have them and talk with them about things that we will be discussing on the school board is absurd, to say the least. And I will challenge you this: if you have any proof of me doing anything like that, go ahead and put it on social media. Go put it on there. Instead of saying these things, go ahead and put it on there. If you'd like to come on this show and discuss this with me, feel free. I have cheese for you, and we can break bread, and we can have a great old time with you telling me these things. But and it's probably Rapunzel 45 or 49, anyways. So with that, you know, we unpacked a lot of stuff, and you know, at the end of the day, you know, a conversation like this is really going to be bothering a lot of people. Obviously, it did because we are exposing what's exactly happening in our society. Now, this isn't about us versus you, conservatives versus progressives. This is about our country. It's about showing common decency and respect. And when we start talking about what is the foundation we're building these our children upon, are we building upon a strong foundation? A strong foundation that inspires them to be better, a strong foundation to inspire them that, you know, there's hope and have faith and love towards each other? Are we building a foundation that is built on anger, regret, vitriol, disdain, you know, hate for your country? You know, we may not be perfect people, we may not be a perfect country, but I could tell you this: most people that I come across, progressives also, we strive to be the best version we can of ourselves. And when we start constantly trying to be the best version of ourselves and then become the best version of our country, we can do amazing things. This country isn't perfect, but by far, in all my travels, it is the perfect country out there. And if you have a debate on that, I'd be more than happy to debate you, considering that I've traveled to over a dozen countries all over in every continent, and dealt with a lot of things. I could tell you, I could test you that the freedoms we have, the love we have, by far outweighs any other place. So as we wrap up, these wonderful ladies here that I tell you again, I didn't touch at all. I just have to laugh at that. You know, we gave you a different insight on things, what we're seeing. But we also, like I said, want to give you solutions to this. And solutions come from uniting. I guarantee us running, we will unite. We will bring people together. We will talk with everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're conservative or progressive, we will come and seek you out, talk with you. We will use some of the techniques because we're in this to fix our country, to build our country together, to show that there's more that binds us and separates us. And so when you're going to get us on the school board, you're going to get happiness, you can get laughter, you're going to get people that understand our own personal limitations, and it's going to look towards you and the community to answer your questions and hear what you have to say for solutions. We're only as strong as a community, and our schools are only as strong as that. And we build ourselves together, bind ourselves together, and stop this divisive, this division, and concentrate on reuniting. We can do amazing things. So I'll give you guys closing words. Go. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
We don't hate people as much as what they say. It's based on character, and we can just we can all just be friends, and we can enjoy each other's company, and we don't have to fight all the time or start anything. I just want to say I came up to someone and they're like, I don't hate you, and that still sounds hateful for some reason.
Dr. Ball, what do you got to say?
I was just gonna, in closing, note what I was saying when you so rudely interrupted me with your phone.
Sorry about that. Technical
Um,
difficulties here.
Is that we have to really pay attention in this election to electing people who have the best interests of our children at heart as they go to House of Delegates, as they go to the state Senate, because on the Virginia Department of Education, we see the SEL language and information there. So it's not something that we can simply eradicate in Fairfax County, but we need to make sure we're uniting behind candidates who will help us to get rid of this.
Building self-esteem for the kids.
I agree. And with that, vote now, vote now, vote now, don't vote tomorrow. And I can tell you this, and I promise you this, and even all those people over there that says that with that comment, November 7th is the election. November 8th actually starts the real work for all of us. And regardless of where I stand on this school board, the real work is reunited this county, and I will work every single day in any capacity. So my real work starts on November 8th, not just for the community, but for reuniting this community. I can promise you that no matter what, you're going to have these podcasts, you're going to have everything continue on, and we're going to still go out there, we're going to unite, and we're going to grow in our mission. Thank you, and God bless.
Bye.
And we're still on to
Still
fix
on.
it off.